Hi, I'm Elaine from EFC Performance, and welcome to the first of our 3 webinars. Really good to have you here today. I can see from my laptop that we've got plenty of people logging in, so that's good to see. And those of you who are still logging in, it's the first of our 3 webinars, and today on the webinar, as you probably remember from your invite, we're going to look at the profiling tool overall. So how does it compare to other tools? How does it work? What is it really meant to do? So without further ado, I think we've got enough people on the call now. I'm going to crack on and get into the first slide for you all. Welcome again. If you could change destructive behaviours without sacking a single person, how appealing does that sound? We have a lot of companies, a lot of clients that work with us, and they have concerns within the HR department around destructive behaviours, because consequentially rather, that leads to attrition, and that has an impact and a cost on the business. So just imagine if you could change the way your staff operate, just to get them to become more productive. How does that sound? How about changing some of the dysfunctional behaviours? That's got to be appealing to people. As I said, that has a huge impact on the business, both from a cost perspective and morale as well, motivation levels, morale, engagement. How about improving employee engagement? I know a lot of companies now are doing internal employee surveys, and a lot of those are linked to customer service scores. And so these things are high on people's agendas. How do we improve employee engagement? Well, we're going to show you how to do that via DiSC. Highly motivated staff, how about that? If you could motivate your staff even more than they currently are. Maybe there are pockets of very demotivated staff. Changing culture, one conversation at a time. That's all we're talking about here with DiSC. It's raising the awareness so that people will change their behaviours through one conversation at a time. Fantastic. And dealing with conflict pops up. We have, again, certain pockets within organisations of people and teams who have a lot of conflict to deal with. We have some very high Ds, as we call them, very dominant characters. So if we could change one or all of those things for the better in your organisation, how does that sound? And if we could do all of that without sacking one single person, that's got to be advantageous to your business. So let's see how we can do that then. Here's a quote from a guy called Patrick Lencioni, a real guru in team dynamics. The single most competitive advantage in today's workplace is teamwork, and yet it remains as elusive as ever without the right expertise, resource, and approach. Patrick Lencioni's written a lot of material around behaviours, particularly team functions. He really is the master in his field, and it's true. The single most competitive advantage in today's workplace is teamwork, but it's so elusive. It's very difficult to get right. And it's not something that once you've got to a point where, yep, we're working much better as a team, our behaviours are vastly improved, that you stop doing anything. You've got to continue with your teams to evolve them and to build them, to strengthen them, and to get them to continually work cohesively together. So before we go any further, let me just tell you a little bit about me and my backstory. So I've got 20 years sales experience. I got a bit tired of being in sales back towards the end of 2008, middle of 2008. And I realised that I wanted to make more of a positive change on people. I liked dealing with people in my sales career. I liked the whole problem solving bit. So I stumbled across this opportunity to go and get qualified as an executive coach. And I did my research, went along, met the people on the day, and was completely sold. So I gained my accreditation and then thought, right, okay, what do I do now? So I started pulling on my network of people that I'd worked with over the years, various contacts, and started to gain some traction and really enjoyed it. And it started to make a difference. But people kept saying to me, can you roll out some training for us? And I thought, well, no, I can't really. I know how to coach now, but I don't really know the dynamics of training. So I went away for 2 years and stopped being a sole trader and started being an employee again. And I fully understood how to put training courses together, how to be a very effective facilitator on my feet. And I worked all over the world with some fantastic high-tech companies due to my IT background when I was in sales. So I gained my stripes and I thought, right, okay, I'm ready to do this on my own again now. And so I reignited the business. We started churning out loads of training programs, sales training and communication skills and presentation skills and a whole ton of different things. And as a result of that, we got some traction. We did very well, but the upshot was it didn't change people. It didn't change people. So we did lots of training. We were making a fair amount of money. We were being fairly successful, but it wasn't doing what I needed to do. So what do we need to do to bring about long-term change? How do we need to change our approach? What do we need to do different? So this is when I began to look at ways that we can actually change behavior rather than just changing a few things in a training process. So I went and got my accreditation in everything DiSC. I went and did a very intensive 2-day course. I became a certified practitioner. And that's when we started to make a difference. So what DiSC does, as with many profiling tools, it takes a very in-depth look at behaviours. So it raises the awareness to the individual. It certainly raises the awareness of how people work in a team. If you can profile a whole team, that's fantastic. But more importantly, it gets people to really think about the impact of their behaviours on others. Why are we not able to get people to be engaged with us as managers, for example? Why can I not get my team working effectively as their leader? Well, it's probably because we haven't fully understood how to engage with them because they have a very, very different set of behaviours to us. Their profile is very different to yours, and your profile is very different to theirs. And by using everything DiSC, it's that practical tool. It gives you a comprehensive report how to start changing those behaviours just one conversation at a time. So we did some things wrong. I did some things wrong when I was training. I was convinced that 2 days in a sales training workshop is going to be fantastic. It's going to change the world. They're going to be brilliant at selling after this. And guess what? They weren't, because they hadn't changed their behaviours. They'd had a shot in the arm. It had made them think about a few things differently in the sales process, for example, but it didn't really change how they approached their peers and their customers. So the sort of people that we've gone on to work with, you can see on the slide here, Amazon, the NHS, IM Properties Group, GWR, the Rail Franchise, Wiley Publishing. I mean, I could go on and on and on. But 99% of all profiles are done through some sort of organisational business. You can run your own profile, of course you can. But most people come to us in terms of, okay, we have a team or we have several teams and we need to start changing dramatically the way they work. Now, don't let these companies put you off. There's some big names here, some big hitters. We work with a whole range of different companies, from very small SMEs right the way up to, as you can see, corporates. So imagine if you could bring about some of the results that these types of organisations have changed for the better by engaging with us to use our tools, resources and expertise. What could that look like in your business? How does that affect you and your results? We know that it can be a real positive, but we have to convince you guys of that. So what is everything DiSC? Some of you might be completely new to this. Some of you might know the old version of DiSC. The new version is everything DiSC. So let me talk you through the model, a bit of the history behind it, so that I position it correctly for you. If any of you have heard of DiSC or you've used the old model DiSC, you can put a hands up or a tick or a yes in the chat panel, just to give me a feel for how many on the webinar have actually had some exposure to DiSC. So yeah, I can see there's quite a few of you. Yeah, that's good. So probably about half of you are familiar with DiSC, and yeah, there's a few comments saying that you're familiar with the old style of DiSC. And the old style of DiSC was just looking at the 4 core behaviours, which is dominance, influence, conscientiousness, and steadiness. And it just plotted your score as a bar chart, as a graph, which didn't really tell you anything. It's much more sophisticated now. So let me give you a bit of background, and also look at the things that DiSC can address in the workplace. So we'll look at 6 key areas throughout the remainder of the webinar. So what is everything DiSC? How can you use it to bring about positive change? It's all very well running these profiles, but you need to know in a practical sense how it brings about change. What results can you expect to achieve when you're using DiSC? What solutions are there? So there's many reports you can run. There's team reports, there's 360s you can do. So we'll have a quick look at the product range. How is it different from other psychometric tools? It's massively intuitive. Wiley, who own DiSC, who own everything DiSC, they've invested a huge amount of time and resource into fine-tuning the algorithm that sits behind DiSC. So when you do go through it, you find it very intuitive, and when you get your report, the general consensus is, wow, that's like my husband or my partner or my wife or someone very close to me has written that. How does it know all that? It's because it's very careful about how it sends the questions out. It will send different questions out to different people. So if you had 10 people going through it, you wouldn't have the same questions for all 10 people. It starts looking at how people are answering the questions. And that's what sets it apart from other psychometric tools. And then finally, we're going to talk about how you access it. So at the end of the webinar, I'm going to make you a very encouraging offer, shall we say, about using DiSC. And for those of you who've never used it or maybe haven't used it for some time, it's a great introductory offer into using DiSC. So stick with us because it's not one to be missed. So everything DiSC is a tool that's designed to support an individual's understanding of their work-related behaviours, but more importantly, the behaviours of others. And it's understanding how to apply this in other work situations. So it's a bit like a roadmap directing you as to how you can navigate your way around human behaviours. How appealing does that sound? I wish I'd have had a roadmap in some of my previous jobs, thinking about some of the people that I tried to navigate around and just couldn't fathom them out. So the tool is like a map. It allows people to have different conversations without getting lost or confused because it's all there in the report. It tells you exactly how to deal with different types of people. So it's very simple in how it allows people to understand not only themselves in a lot more detail, but it then goes on to give you some very practical tools as how you can use this information on a day-to-day basis. So those of you at the end of the webinar who want a sample report, there's plenty of information about how you can get in touch with us. And we can send you all sorts of sample reports, but you'll see towards the back, there's lots of pages that give you some fantastic advice. So if you are a D profile, it tells you how you need to interact with all the other profiles. So how do you interact with them when you're trying to delegate? How do you interact when you try to communicate more effectively? What about when you've got to have a challenging conversation with someone who is very dynamic and you're more reflective? Well, all the answers are there. It takes all the guesswork out of managing different types of people. How about that in your back pocket? Some of the history behind the model then, in 1928, a guy called William Moulton Marston, there he is, handsome looking chap, was the first psychologist to study normal people and normal behaviour. So at the time, there was a lot of research, a lot of psychologists were writing books and white papers and the like about very abnormal behaviour, dysfunctional behaviour. But he went the other way. He also invented, you can see the picture there, the lie detector. Very well-educated guy. He went to Harvard, and he was also a director at Universal Studios, so quite a diverse career. And you can see that from 1928, there's a series of timelines there. So in 1940, the first DiSC assessment actually came to the fore. So quite a long time in its inception, from 1928 to 1940. 2003 was the first online assessment. Everything was online by 2003, I think. And then in 2007, everything DiSC developed. So this is the latest version of DiSC, the one I'm going to work with over the webinar today and the next two webinars. And then in 2012, Wiley bought Inkscape, who are the people that originally owned DiSC. There's a little figure there, 0.38. What do you think happens every 0.38 seconds around the world? If any of you know, pop it into chat. Every 0.38 seconds, what do you think is happening? Yep, a couple of you have got it. Every 0.38 seconds, someone somewhere in the world is completing an everything DiSC profile. Well, so what? I can hear you all saying, so what? What does that mean? Well, what it means is you should feel confident, if you're going to use this as a profiling tool, that it is well trodden. It's very, very credible. 0.38 seconds everywhere in the world, someone is completing an everything DiSC profile. So from your point of view, if you're a business owner, if you're a team leader, if you're a HR director, HR manager, anything to do with learning and development, talent management, organizational development, you're going to be in safe hands if you decide to go this route. And I think that's very reassuring when the market is peppered with lots of choices about psychometric testing. This is the best in my eyes. It's the market leader. It's the most intuitive. It's the most well used across the whole world. So why would you not want to jump on board with this particular profiling tool if it's something that you're seriously looking at doing? So the value of everything DiSC, well, there's many values. It will develop self-insight and self-awareness. Can you imagine if just that one thing improved in your organization, that you developed a workforce of highly self-aware people? Oh my goodness. I've worked with many workforces and they're nowhere near self-awareness. And they're good. They're good without self-awareness. So that could be that next step from good to excellent. What does that look like in your business? What does that mean for you? What does that mean for your teams? It allows people to understand the behaviours of their colleagues, of their peers, of their managers. It allows the managers to understand how their teams are ticking. You know, there's nothing more frustrating than trying to get a team behind you and it's just not happening. And because of this, it allows people to adapt their behaviours, so they'll build stronger working relationships. They'll be able to communicate much more effectively with everyone around them, stakeholders, customers, peers. How does it help leaders and managers? Well, it'll certainly improve engagement and interpersonal relationships with you and your team. It'll help drive the performance of individuals and teams, improve leadership and management behaviours. Imagine improving just one of these areas, just one. How about encouraging productive conflict and reducing unhealthy conflict? We need a little bit of conflict, don't we? We need that challenging side of people, because that's how we get change. That's how we get things done. But you don't want destructive conflict. You don't want that finger pointing blame culture, do you? That's not good. So if you could change just one of these things, how different are those results likely to be? How different are they likely to be? Probably massive. Depends on your teams and your organizational setup. So there's three things I'm going to share with you here about DiSC as a model and the real benefits to you and your teams and your organization. I'm going to share three key things, and they all feed into that heading there. How to change destructive behaviors in the workplace without sacking a single person. How about that for a headline? How to change destructive behaviors in the workplace without sacking a single person. Again, there's many organizations we've worked with, and they come to us as a last resort because they haven't put the horse before the cart, so to speak. They're now putting the cart before the horse. We've got these huge problems with these teams. Okay, what's happening? Well, if it was left to me, I'd sack a lot of them. Oh, okay, we're in a pretty bad place then, yeah. Because there's a huge impact to the business, to the people, to the financial side of the business if you go down that route. So let me share these 3 secrets, if you like, with you. So secret number 1, you can change behaviours for the better. You can. I've seen it done. We do it all the while. But you need the right expertise and the right tools. Using DiSC and using people to help you understand DiSC and apply it in your workplace, that's the key. A quick training session will not bring about the sustainable change you need. It's a complete waste of money. I'm sorry to say that, guys and girls, but it really is. It will not change the way people do things. You've got to change behaviour. What you do need is a proven methodology in terms of resource, expertise and tools to bring about measurable change in a different way. Secret number 2, people will refer to type without the right tools and ongoing support. Therefore, you need a team of experts to be working alongside your people. Constant support and expertise needs to be in place. So we're all creatures of habit, aren't we? And unless we're encouraged in the right way to make sustainable change, then we find it much too much effort to create new habits. So what do? Well, we just ping straight back to the old ones, don't we? Having the right tools and resources paramount. So your DiSC report, the right facilitation, ongoing expertise. And the last one, the 3rd secret, a highly aware and cohesive workforce is incredibly challenging to create. You read lots of the Lencioni stuff that I referred to earlier. It's really difficult. That's why just with one session of some sort of training or coaching, it won't work. This has to be an ongoing process. And so you have to acknowledge that something has to change to create this. If everything else has failed or produced mediocre and very unsustainable results, then you've got to move in a different direction. If you keep repeating the same patterns and approaches and hoping and praying for a different result, then we're kidding ourselves, aren't we? You have to take a leap of faith and take a different approach, something that's proven and credible. DiSC is proven and it's extremely credible. So the message has to be consistent and constant, not just spending 2 days a year in a training room, because it won't work. We've done it. It won't work. We've done it and it doesn't work. So let's look at how it will work, how it will bring about sustainable change by using a very credible tool. How can you use this tool to bring about behavioural change? Well, it's a bit of a 4-step process, as we've put here. So it's going to allow people to understand themselves better. They'll certainly understand others better. They've now got that roadmap, that blueprint. Right, now I understand my manager. Now I understand this director. Now I understand these 2 people in my team. I've been bashing my head against the wall. I just can't engage with them. Now I've got an insight as to how I can do it. And working with DiSC forever, share it with others. It's a life tool. Every time we go back into our clients to do any sort of work, we always encourage them on their joining instructions to bring their DiSC report back into the workplace. And we might not work with them for 3 months at a time, and then we go back and we do something else, and then we go back another 3 months and we do something else. And we always tell them to bring their DiSC report in, because it keeps it alive and they can relate to it. And you can measure things then. We can measure change. It's something that can drive a real culture through your business as well. How about that? Changing culture. That's massively challenging. So it'll allow you and your people to develop a common language around DiSC. They'll start talking about, yeah, I'm this DI profile. Oh, okay, that's interesting. I'm very opposite to you. Oh, okay. And you start in different conversations, making change one conversation at a time. So let's have a look at the model in detail, because I know from the audience, not everyone is familiar with this. So let's put the theory to the test here. Let's try the process. So if you've got a piece of paper in front of you and a pen or a pencil, let's try and guess where you are. So this is based on how we would run these workshops. So before we give them their reports, we get them familiar with the model and we have a bit of fun with it. So if you draw a vertical line, and at the top you put active, fast-paced, as you can see on the slide. So very assertive, louder speaking, dynamic, bold. And then the opposite at the bottom of that line, you've got moderate pace, very thoughtful, so very calm, methodical, careful. And just put a little cross or a circle where you think you currently are on that line. So if you're more active and dynamic, then you're going to be more towards the top. And conversely, if you're very different to that, you're going to be more towards the bottom. Maybe you're in the middle, maybe you're somewhere in between. And now draw another line horizontally across that vertical line. So again, out to the left, you've got one extreme, which is very questioning type in your approach. So very logic focused, objective, very challenging. And then over on the polar opposite side, you've got very accepting, so very people focused, display empathy, very receptive. So just take a minute to think about where you would be on that line. I'm just having a quick slurp of my coffee. So are you more over to the left or more over to the right? And now I want you to have a look at the two together. So let's see where you are. Put the two together. Are you, now you've put your two axes together, are you somewhere between active and accepting? Or are you more towards the bottom here? Are you sort of more thoughtful? So put a cross where you are overall between the two axes. So for example, you might be as I say, between active and accepting. You might be over towards the lefty. You might be extremely questioning. You know, I'm very skeptical. I always need the facts and the evidence and the figures. That's fine. There's no right or wrong, good or bad about this. It's just where you think you sit. So now you're starting to understand, okay, well, I'm positively more active than I ever am in terms of being thoughtful and more reflective. So this is thinking about what you bring to the party then. So think about your characteristics and your preferred ways of doing things in the here and now, not how you'd like to operate. This is about the here and now, things you do naturally in a work capacity. What does that tell you about your strengths then? Well, it could be that, yeah, I'm someone who can make very quick decisions. I have to make quick decisions. Okay, well, that's a real strength. What about if you make those decisions too quickly and you don't take the time, as it says on the previous slide, to be a bit more questioning, a bit more thoughtful? Maybe you jump to decisions too quickly. So this is getting you to start about, okay, this is where I think my core values are, but I can see where opposite to where I've put that cross is maybe my weakness, my blind spot, things that I know I'm not very effective in. So it's starting to map out your strengths, your weaknesses, your core values, your blind spots. Any of you that are familiar with the Johari window model, that's about disclosure. So it's understanding, you know, what we do know and what we don't know. And maybe we do know where we sit currently on that very simple diagram, but we're not quite sure about, okay, so how do I start? How do I start to ramp up those behaviours that are very opposite to where I naturally sit? Excuse me. So let's start looking at the model itself. So here you can see we have a circle and you've got the D, the I, the S and the C. So it's an acronym obviously for dominance, influence, steadiness and conscientiousness. And I kind of very quickly run through those behaviours. So if you are profiled as a D, you're deemed as someone who is quite direct, very results orientated, very strong-willed, quite a forceful character. Over on the I, the influencers, well, they're very outgoing. They're the ones with the sunny disposition in your team. We like these, don't we? They're very chatty, but they can tend to be a little bit disorganised, very high-spirited, quite lively characters. Make good salespeople, the influencers. The S's, the steady eddies as we call them, very even-tempered, very accommodating people, nice, patient people. They're great for creating harmony in a team. So if you've got a team of high D's, for example, who are very dynamic, very energetic, very forward-thinking, forceful people, then it's nice to have some of the steadiness in the team as well. So very humble people, quite slow to react to things, not as quick to make decisions as the D's, for example. And then finally, you've got the C's, the conscientiousness. Now, these are your analysts, so very analytical, quite reserved people, very high standards, very precise. They want all the facts, the details, the evidence. They're not going to make those quick decisions unless you give them chapter and verse. So again, you can start to see where you, as an individual, or maybe your teams, maybe you're sat on the webinar and you're responsible for quite a lot of teams, you can start to see, I can see where Jeff is, I can definitely see where Jane would sit, and yeah, I'm starting to see I've got some high D's and you know, I've got some very opposites here, some S's as well. Now the picture's starting to unravel. So just on the next slide, it talks about that original axes that we did. So we looked at active, accepting, thoughtful, and questioning, and now you can see where that fits into DiSC. So the D's and the I's are very active. The I's and the S's are deemed as quite accepting. They're not as challenging. The C's and the S's, very thoughtful people, very deep thinkers, quite reflective types. Make good coaches, the S's do, because they're good listeners and they ask very intelligent questions. And then the D's and the C's, very questioning. They want to know why all the while. Why this? Why that? Why the other? So you need to make sure you've got all your facts completely lined up when you're dealing with the D's and the C's. Some alternative descriptors. So the I's, it's about getting approval. The S's, it's about getting along. They like to get along with people. The C's, they always like to be right. So if you need to challenge the C's about something they've done wrong, then you better make sure that you've got a very watertight case for doing that. And the D's, they just like to get things done. Let's just get it done. Let's worry about the consequences of it later, but let's just get it done. Let's make that decision and get it done. However, even though each area of DiSC has its strengths, it also has its setbacks. So it's what we call people's overdone strengths. And what we mean by this is a D looking at an S and an I looking at a C, for example, might see some very overdone strengths. So things that we would deem as, oh, that would disengage me from that people. I see that as a negative. I don't see that as a positive. So let's have a look at what some of those characteristics might be. So, for example, the I's and the S's and the C's, they might look at the D's and think, I think you guys and girls are a bit pushy, you're a bit impatient, quite domineering at times. Very tough on people, you're quite harsh, you lot. Now, if you show the D's that, they'll completely disagree with that unless they've gone through the DiSC process. So this is the whole thing about enlightening and starting to understand our own behaviours in a very different way. The D's will turn around and say, no, we're not pushy. You know, we have to get things done. It's about the result. It's about the result. So we might come across as pushy, but that's not our intention. Domineering, so they might be the people who are always taking over in the meetings. You know, you're always the guys and the girls, you're always the ones talking in the meetings, you never listen. Yeah, but we've got a lot to get through, and someone has to lead things. So you can see how perspective comes in here from the other three areas of DiSC when we're looking at the overdone strengths around the other areas of DiSC. So the I's, for example, their overdone strengths can be that others see them as disorganized, undisciplined. They've probably got very mucky desks, you know, they've got a mucky car, mucky desk. They know where everything is, but they're quite sort of manic, you know, they're a bit disorganized, very excitable people, quite reactive, so quite sensitive. Whereas the D's, you know, you can have a right old ding dong with the D's and they'll just plow on. The I's not so much. The S's, so again, the D's, the I's and the C's, they might see the S's as being, they're a bit unsure, a bit wishy-washy, you know, they're a bit awkward to deal with. They don't give much away. They're deep thinkers, they're quite conforming, they're very slow to change. The S's, again, if you tackle them with these sort of things, they'll probably look at that list and say, well, it's not that we're unsure, but, you know, we like to take our time to make a considered decision about things. We're not unconforming, we just might be a bit slower to change, you know, we like to just weigh up everything that we're gaining as well as what we're losing. And then finally the C's, so again, other areas of DiSC might look at the C's and think, oh, they're a bit stuffy, that lot, you know, a bit quick to judge. Again, a bit like the S's, very slow to make decisions, and won't be tired if you try and criticise them. However, they like to criticise others. Now, the thing with the C's is they're madly passionate about the standard of the work they do and how they present themselves. It's very important to them. So the minute you start going on the attack about something that they haven't done correctly or they haven't performed correctly, it's massively damaging to them, because they put a lot of emphasis on very high standards, high levels of performance. But again, other people might look at them, particularly the direct opposites. So the I to the C, the D to the S to the D, and the C to the I. So the I's would really struggle unless you've got tools to understand why they behave like that. You know, the I's, they're not ones for detail. They're great ideas people, visionaries. They don't like the detail. That's where they need the C's. Right, okay, we've got this great idea. As a C, go away and make a plan. Brilliant. Got two people starting to understand how to work together. So you can see straight away how this whole process flags up your strengths and your weaknesses, but it also gives you that blueprint, that working document, so that others can understand you the way you want them to. It's that roadmap, it's that blueprint, as we said earlier. So let's really drill down into the model now. So you can see on the slide we've got a DiSC wheel, but we've now got 12 segments, and there are actually 12 styles. So you might come out as a DI. So you can see right at the top, you're slightly across on the D, but you're near the I, so you're what's considered a DI. You've got a lot of the D style, but you've also got some peppering of I. If you come down the bottom, you could be an SC or a CS, depending where your dot, and your dot is you. How about that? You reverted to a dot. So your dot will come out in one of 12 segments. You can see that there are 3 dots there, so depending where your dot lies, it could be closer to the middle or closer to the edge. If your dot is closer to the middle, then it means that you're not so prevalent in those styles. You're a bit harder to read. It could also mean that you're very adaptable. So it's easier, obviously, for you, where you're placed with your dot towards the center, to adapt your behavior to an I, to an S, to a C. It's not a massive jump for you. It's not massively challenging. And then conversely, if your dot is towards the outer edge, then you generally display very evidently those behaviors. So you can see there the dot is in the midsection of D, so you will be deemed as a high D. It's very evident that you display common D-type behaviors. Now, the thing about this is there is no right or wrong, good or bad. And I don't know how many times we say that in the workshops that we run around DiSC, because some people can actually get on the bandwagon of, oh, well, you know, unless you're a high D or a high I or whatever, then you're not going to fit in this team. They do it a bit tongue-in-cheek, but we have to police that, because this is not about if you don't fit in one part of DiSC, you're not going to be effective as a manager or a salesperson or a coach. It's not about that. It's about turning the volume up on understanding your own behaviors and understanding the behaviors of others, so that where we need to adapt and modify those behaviors, we can do that. And then over on the right-hand side of that slide, you can see that we've taken, this is a snippet from an actual report. So in the reports, it shows this DiSC diagram. And you can see there that there's a slight shading area over on the D. Now, what that means is it's picked up the different priorities. So this person is profiled as a very high I, almost off the end of the DiSC wheel. So very high in terms of those I behaviors. What it's picked up is that this person also, which is untypical of the I, has one eye on results. So you can see there are several words around the outer edge, and the 4 priorities, which is what these words are called, that it has picked up on this person are results, action, enthusiasm, and collaboration. Results, action, enthusiasm, and collaboration. Now you can see there are also 4 others that are greyed out, which is challenge, accuracy, stability, and support. So basically what this person has profiled as is that high I, but it's picked up somewhere that results are also important. It's not a key strength for them, hence it's shown up as shading. It's not something that would skew their dot more towards the D, but it is important. And those of you, as I said, who want a sample report, we can send sample reports out, and you'll see how in the annotation part, it does pick up why it's flagged up results as a priority. So it's not a key thing for this person to focus on, but it's important. It has become a priority. And I think you can have up to, I believe it's 5 priorities. It might be 6. But again, that's not your typical behaviour, but it's something that is important. It's picked it up somewhere in the way that you've answered the questions, and that's where in a workshop or with your coach, you would talk in a lot more depth about that. You'd find that area in your report, and we would cover that off with you. So then what we normally do, if we've got a team, we do a team overview, and you can see on the next slide that we've plotted everyone. This is one of our clients. It's I think it's their finance team. And there's a fairly good balance there. So we've got 3 over in the D, we've got 2 in the I, 1 in the S, and 1 in the C. So not a bad balance. Now, some people say to us, oh, if it's finance, do we all need to be over in the C part because we need to be analytical? No, that doesn't make for a good team. That just shows that you've all got analytical skills. What you're ideally looking for is a good balance across your team. It doesn't always happen. And that's where you need to take that stand then to say, okay, we're very heavily balanced towards the D and the C, so we're very task focused, but actually we're a sales team, so what's going on there then? We have no people skills as such, which are dominant skills on the team. So what do we need to do about it? Well, we need to start adapting those behaviours, or it might also be a heads up to change the way that you bring people into that team. So look at your onboarding process, and again, that's where DiSC can help. Or we work very hard on getting people to adapt those behaviours, and that's the real beauty of DiSC. So what sort of results can you achieve with DiSC? Oh gosh, where do we start here? There are so many things that DiSC can help with. And we've just popped a couple of testimonials on the next few slides. I'm not going to read the whole thing out. So this is Spitfire Bespoke Homes. Some of you may know them. Very high-end house builder. I don't think they build anything called under £250,000 up to 2 million, I think. Beautiful, beautiful homes across the country. And we've worked with them extensively on DiSC and also doing 5 behaviours. So some of the advantages of using DiSC is that it raises the awareness of their own behaviours, i.e. the people in the company, but it also allows them to understand others in a different way. It's improved communication and cohesion across all their departments, and it's really driven very higher levels of engagement as well. They've seen some big changes. They've now got salespeople on board, and they're going through DiSC, and it's certainly pulled their senior management team, their board of directors together. They've all gone through DiSC, and they're working a lot more cohesively now. Another customer of ours is IM Properties. This is a big commercial property group, and again, they've used DiSC extensively. Everyone in their business has gone through DiSC, so they've now created this common language. It's a real culture across the organisation, and again, they have more cohesive behaviours. It's improved relationships, and now they're rolling out DiSC to their US team. We've got 2 teams that we're working with in the US, and they're also going through DiSC, and they're doing lots of coaching around it. So engagement, improving relationships. I mean, these are fantastic results that you know most people are looking to improve across their businesses. So how does it set itself apart from other tools? As I said, it's very intuitive. So all the people who are going through DiSC in your team or your organisation, they won't all get the same questions. It picks up the way people are answering questions, and it then sends out very different questions. So if you've got 2 people sat side by side going through the assessment, they won't get the same 30, 35 questions. It looks for patterns, so it's massively intuitive, and that's what makes it very accurate when we work with teams and they have their reports. It's very competitively priced. A lot of people say to us, "Oh, we've gone online and we can download for £10 or $15. We can do a DiSC report." Well, okay, go ahead and do it. But it won't be anywhere near as valuable as doing a proper report, which is about 26 pages long, and then you need the backup of a coach or a workshop to really understand how to make the report work for you. it's one thing just printing a very light report off and looking at it, because inevitably what you'll do is just think, oh, that's interesting, and off it goes into a drawer, never to see the light of day again. This is not where we're at. We approach the whole thing very differently and get you very different results. So it's trusted, it's reliable, it's very fast to do. I mean, literally, you know, once we've invoiced the client, the minute the invoice is cleared, within hours we can get the whole thing done. So we can send the link out. If you've got someone sat there ready to do it, we then get notified as soon as they've done it. It takes about 10 minutes to do, and we can have the report done and ready to coach that person in the same hour. Very, very quick. We can do things like comparison reports. In the next webinar, we'll talk a lot more about comparison reports, and I'll talk you through those. Team profiles. You also get access to myeverythingdisc.com, which is a wealth of resource. So once you've done a DISC report, you then get your own personal login to myeverythingdisc.com. But as it says on the slide, most of all, it's very intuitive. It's very accurate. So how do you access the power of DISC? Well, before we go into that, let me get you to ask yourself a few questions here. If you could access the products and services that we're offering, including Everything DISC, to bring about the changes that you've actually seen work in this webinar, what sort of price do you put on that? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how big the challenges are in your business, with yourself, in your organization. But I guarantee they're there, because they're there in every organization. So how do you price that then? How do you price something that you absolutely know is going to bring about that sort of change? If you could develop a workforce that truly enjoys every minute in the workplace and has a great appetite for developing and improving, how appealing is that? Massively appealing. There's so many people that we talk to and they say, how do we develop this culture, this thirst, this appetite to want to learn and develop? Well, you've got to give them the right tools, and DISC is that first step. What if you could help deliver a culture across your business that has that appetite for positive and sustainable change at a pace that no one is fearful of? Fantastic. Well, this is the start of it. Using DISC is the start of it. And here's what we can offer you. So this is as a result of being on the webinar. There's a particular offer that we want to put to you. And we've packaged a few things up here around the whole DISC process. So as a result of today, this is what you can get. You can get 10 Everything DISC workplace reports. Now that's the generic report that you can run across any part of your business. There are more specialized reports, which we'll go into more on webinar 2. But you can get 10 Everything DISC workplace reports for £900. You'll also be able to have 5 one-hour coaching sessions with myself, and I don't do that much coaching anymore. I've got a whole army of coaches and facilitators, for 5 people. Now you can choose those people. It might be people who are performing very well, so it's by way of recognition or reward. It could be that you give it to 5 particular managers that are working very well, or maybe they need that extra level of support. It doesn't really matter who they are. It can be any 5 you choose. You'll also get a monthly 2-hour group coaching call for up to 5 people for 3 months. All right, so every month for 3 months, we will do a 2-hour group coaching call, and if I'm available, I'll do it as well. I'm not adverse to doing that for 5 people. Now, it might be the same 5 people that I do that coaching session with, that one-to-one. Again, it's completely your choice. The value of putting people in a group coaching session is phenomenal, because that observational learning bit is incredibly powerful, and that's what they'll be doing, being part of that process. So they're learning how to coach, and they're learning how to be a good coachee. And again, this is all wrapped around DISC. So we wrap the whole thing around the findings of their DISC report. And then finally, we're going to offer you a full-day workshop with one of our award-winning accreditation team. Now, if you look at our website, all the W's, efcperformance.com, you'll see that most of, in fact, I think all of our facilitators are award-winning. So we make no apologies for that. We select the best. We only work with the best people, so that we can give you the best pedigree in terms of training and development. So you'll get a full day workshop with one of the team. They're all DiSC accredited, and we'll talk all of your people through DiSC. We have a great day. We have a lot of fun with it up until the point that they get the report. So we get them trying to understand where each of them are in the team, and it's a lot of fun, because what generally happens is, and it's a good starting point, is that people get others very wrong. Oh yeah, he's definitely an I. Yeah, he's always chatting. He's always, very high energy, and then when they get the reports and they've got them completely wrong, they're completely the other side. So the total value is 6,400, which is really good value for money for all of that expertise, all of that time and resource with us. However, we're going to throw some extra things in. So we're going to give you a few bonus things here as a result of being on the webinar. Now, there is a timeline on this, which I'll tell you right at the end, and we're almost done. We've only got about 10 minutes left. So we're going to give you an additional 5 reports. So remember, we've already given you 5, as you can see here. Sorry, we're already giving you 10. So we're giving you an additional 5, and these can be for anyone in your business. So they'll be everything DiSC generic reports that you can run anywhere in your business. So they're not the management ones or anything like that. They're the generic ones. So anyone can do these. We're going to give you an additional 5 for 450. We're also going to give you an additional everything DiSC reports for specific roles in your business. So these can be for managers and they can be for salespeople. And obviously the wording and the vocabulary in these reports is more suited towards those roles. So it might be that you need a bit of a focus on salespeople. It might be that you need a bit of a focus on your managers. You can drill down with these specific reports, and we're going to give you an additional 5 reports that can be for anyone in your business in those specific roles. So leaders, managers, salespeople. How about that? Here's another bonus. So we're also going to give you a full day for your team developing their behaviours around the Lencioni model. Now, as I said, if you know anything about the Lencioni approach, he devised this model, which is around 5 core behaviours for team dynamics, which is trust, conflict, commitment, accountability, and results. It's a phenomenal tool. We use it extensively with the people we work with, and the change that it brings about in teams is incredible. It really is. We can plug you into whoever you want to talk to across our portfolio, and they will tell you the value of this stuff. So your third bonus that we're going to offer you is a full day, and I suggest you take them off site, by the way, so they're very clear of mind. A full day with your team to really focus on driving those behaviours. And here's a fourth that we're going to throw at you today. Sound like a market trader, don't I? Here's the fourth we're going to offer you today. A full day review for your team 6 months after the initial workshop. All right. So this is in order to measure change and growth and development. So whatever that team looks like, doesn't really matter. We'll do the initial work with them. We'll do the initial DiSC workshop, all the 5 behaviours. And then we're going to offer you another full day review with your team 6 months after that workshop. Now, how does this all stack up? Let's have a look. So you're going to get 10 everything DiSC workplace reports. You're going to get 5 1-hour one-to-one coaching sessions with myself for 5 people. It doesn't matter who those people are. You're going to get a monthly 2-hour group coaching call for up to 5 people. And that spans over 3 months. We're going to do a full day's workshop with one of our facilitators, and that will be around the DiSC reports. The additional things that we're going to put in here are an additional 5 workplace reports. So you've got 15 workplace reports. 15. Secondly, we're going to give you an additional 5 reports specifically for managers or leaders or salespeople. And as I said, if you want some samples of those before you wanted to go ahead, we can send those out because they're very different to the generic ones. Thirdly, we're going to give you a full day for your team developing their behaviours around the Lencioni model. So the trust, the commitment, the conflict, the accountability and the results model. Massively powerful, bring about some incredible results. And then finally, we're going to offer 6 months after you've run the team day, we're going to offer you a follow-up workshop so that we can measure progress, we can see where we are, we can have a look at how people have adapted and changed behaviours. All right. Now, the total value of all of that is almost 12,000, so just shy of 12,000, 11,850, which is hugely well priced. However, what we are going to do, just for the people who are on this webinar until the end of March, so we're going to keep this offer open for you until the end of March, is we're going to offer exactly that same mix of products for just 4,500. So the total value is 11,850, and we're going to do a specific offer. It's all DiSC and 5 behaviours related for the people who are on the webinar until the 31st of March for just 4,500. Now, we're also sending this webinar out as a recording to most of our database, most of our network. So that includes you as well. If you are listening to this webinar and you want to take advantage of this offer, then again, it is open to everyone who is listening or on this webinar until the 31st of March. That's a phenomenal development package, it really is. And I absolutely guarantee that is going to make a huge difference in terms of changing behaviours and bringing about different results. So the choice is not around if this works, it's around if you want it to work for you. We know this works. We do this every day. This is what we do. This is what we work with big organisations, SMEs, individuals around DiSC to coach them. This is what we do. And we know this works. Yeah. So this program gives you the tools and expertise at a really good price to bring about sustainable change. Think about how we open this webinar. Training on its own is not going to work. It does not bring about sustainable change. This stuff does. We know it does. We've proven it with people. I really hope you've enjoyed the webinar. We're just coming up to the hour. Thank you so much for attending today, and thank you if you took the time out of your busy day to listen to this. If you're not on the webinar and you're listening as a result of being in our network, I hope you found it valuable. If you've got any other questions, you can contact us on info@efcperformance.com, which is on the slide. You can call us on 01905 841 778, or you can visit the website. There's plenty of information there, which is all the W's, efcperformance.com. I want to thank you all for listening to this. We really appreciate it. We really hope that we can be working with some of you in the future. And listen out for the second webinar that will be coming shortly, and also the third one, which is more about how you apply DiSC in the workplace. But for now, I'd like to thank you for your time, and I look forward to picking up with some of you, but also revisiting DiSC on our second webinar. Thank you for attending. Thank you for listening.